We're back. Sportsnet Fantasy Playbook Live, and here's the deal. If you're watching today, it means you survived by Mageddon. And all of those teams are back in action here in week 8. And it's going to be a fun one again. Donovan Bennett, Andy McNamara, Jesse Rubinoff alongside. And here's the deal. We want you to ask us all the questions you have about fantasy starts and sits today because it's going to be a good one. And you see Donovan there. He's wearing the Cowboys sweatshirt. Andy, of course, has the Browns paraphernalia everywhere. He's got the sweater. He's got the banner in the back. He's got the helmet up top. But, Deej, I want to start with you before we get to questions. Dak Prescott, a bit of a calf issue, and looks like he's going to be a game-time decision for that prime-time affair later tonight. The deal is with Dak, if he doesn't go, it's Cooper Rush. And you have the Cowboys sweatshirt on. So what are we looking for from Cooper Rush tonight? What does it mean for the rest of the Cowboys offense fantasy-wise?
From Cooper Rush, we're looking for a lot of rushes, not by him. He's going to reverse
Mm.
pivot and he's going to hand the ball off. Might pitch it every once in a while, but it's going to be a heavy run game if Dak isn't able to go. And listen, the Cowboys have covered pretty much every week this week. This line jumped this week because of the precariousness around Dak's injury to the point where you can now get Minnesota as the favorite. I would say this Dak's comments have been somewhat cagey in terms of what his status will be. He has said, though, it's not up to him. And when you look at the NFC East and you look at the landscape, Cowboys are going to run away with division. They already are. There's a bunch of one-win teams, and so sure, they might want to fight for a one seed, but it's early days. If you have an injury to Dak and he's out prolonged, that could be the difference in the season. Given the fact that they haven't said he's playing, I would lean on expecting him not to play. What does that mean? That means if you have some of those Cowboys skills, like an Amari Cooper or a CeeDee Lamb or one of the tight ends, and you've got some other options at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock, I'm playing those other options if it's close. Because I just don't trust that Dak, who's the game time decision, is going to play tonight. However, if you have Ezekiel Elliott, I mean, he's a guaranteed start anyways, but you feel really, really good about it. And so to answer your question, if Cooper Rush plays, I expect them to pound the football with Zeke and with Pollard. If he's
Mm.
a fringe flex guy, I would play Pollard this week. I also think that means more ball control, more time of possession for that Minnesota Vikings offense, who, if you look at it closely, they are built similarly to the way the Cowboys offense is. Great skills, great running game. So I like Minnesota in this game. I like their skills, and I don't love the Cowboys' skills outside of the running backs. But even if Dak's not going, Cooper Rush doesn't matter because you're not streaming him if you need a quarterback. It's not a like-for-like replacement. There's some
Yeah.
other streaming quarterbacks that you could get into.
Andy, we were talking about this before the show. It feels like the big loser in this would be the football fan sitting at home watching this game just because you're expecting a high scoring, fun game between the Cowboys and the Vikings. It's a close line, anticipating maybe that Dak's going to miss the game now, but it should have been an entertaining affair. If Dak doesn't play, I guess the product and the skill players, maybe it's not as good for the football fans sitting at home.
Well, no, and I think now we look at the over-under sitting at 51 and a half points. If we're anticipating Dak not playing, I think you're smashing the under on that, guys, right? Like,
Mm.
I agree. It's going to be a turn, a handoff, a double D day in Dallas, dink and dunk by Cooper Rush. Just drop. Could be a nice day for Dalton Schultz as well, right? That's and then you're guessing sort of the rest of the way when it comes to, all right, well, CeeDee Lamb in the slot, yes. Is Cooper Rush going to be able to get him the ball? Like, I just feel big day for the running back as well. And you know what? If you're going as a head-to-head, a nice streaming option against that Dallas defense is probably Kirk Cousins. You know, we do like
Right.
that, Kirk. We do like that now because the last couple of weeks he's been popping. So
Okay, so Andy, I asked Donovan about his team in the Dak Prescott issue. I want to get to the Cleveland Browns because you deserve to talk a little bit about Baker Mayfield. Obviously, his issues with his non-throwing shoulder, it's causing all sorts of problems for him. But the reality is the offense goes how the rushing attack goes. And Nick Chubb is on track to start today behind an offensive line that's expected to be fully healthy for the first time since week 4. So what are you expecting from the Cleveland Browns? And I know that Baker was vocal on Twitter earlier, I guess it was yesterday, asking the fans to be super loud for a huge game against the Steelers.
Well, exactly. And that's why if you saw on the video screen me look down, I was just retweeting. I got to help out my guy Bake.
Yeah.
Get the word out, get the message out to the people there in Cleveland. Listen, I was there last week for the Thursday nighter against Denver live in person. It was incredible. It was amazing atmosphere. And the hero of that game was Ernest Johnson, the former fisherman. I actually got to interview him last year when he had his big game against the Cowboys in relief. Humble guy, great story, great dude. And what that does now is with Nick Chubb coming back from that calf injury, I think he's going to be a full go. But with Kareem Hunt still being out, we can now fit Ernest Johnson into that flex role. Where does he give you the ceiling that Kareem Hunt does? Probably not. But I still feel you can handle him in the flex role. Probably better for standard formats because he can still gain in chunks. And if anything does happen to Chubb in game where he needs more breathers, Ernest Johnson is going to be the play there. That's really, guys, the only players on the Browns I want to be touching fantasy-wise in this game because of Baker Mayfield's arm in that shoulder sling. On is non-throwing one, but still, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a very good point because Odell Beckham Jr. now has gone 22 straight games without on 100-yard games. So he's creeping closer towards that flex, if not unplayable, when you're looking at that Browns receiving core. Okay, yeah. Let's get to some questions because that's what we're here for. Ultimately, we want to help the people out with their fantasy starts and sits. So Polar Bear Pete on YouTube is asking, Leonard Fournette or Damian Harris? Both have been pretty hot as of late. Who are you going with, Andy? Leonard Fournette or Damian Harris?
I'm going to give an edge to Damian Harris. And guys, it always makes me nervous with these Patriots running backs because I say that and Belichick's going to pull some guy off the practice squad and he's going to go for 200 yards and we're going to hate our lives, right? We know how that goes. However, that Saints run defense is legitimate. It is. It's really good. Tom Brady, why not light up the football? Keep throwing, doing what you're doing. So while I don't think Fournette is unplayable at all, I think it downgrades him a little bit, and I'm going to go the other way. So I'll say Damian Harris in their matchup.
Totally agree on all things. Don't trust the Patriots in their backfield, but I also don't trust that Chargers defense, especially when it comes to stopping the run. They've been gassed. So the worst run defense in football, especially on early downs. So for me, it's all about the opponent. The Saints' front four and really their front seven is legit. Can't say the same thing for the Chargers. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Harris.
I don't know if you guys saw the Leonard Fournette video. It's one of those mic'd up situations where he's just giggling every time he gets tackled. It's like, amazing. That dude's different. I know we're rolling with Damian Harris here, but you're giggling when you get tackled. You know something's different. He's been performing for fantasy owners, no doubt, this season, and he's been enjoying it, it looks like. Koala Bear Caleb, a regular on YouTube. The question is, good morning, fellas. What do you think this week about Kenneth Gainwell or Eli Mitchell this week? Obviously, the Eagles' situation at running back a little bit more precarious. Miles Sanders placed on IR. Gainwell expected to step in, although what we saw last week was a little bit of Boston Scott getting the early down work. So who do you like, Deech? Kenneth Gainwell or Eli Mitchell in this spot?
You spent all that fab money on Eli Mitchell for a reason. These are one of the few weeks you might get to actually cash out. Eli Mitchell, no question.
Andy?
I'm going to say I'm going to go Kenneth Gainwell. I like the Mitchell play too overall. So I think you're going to be in a good spot either way. But in this direct head-to-head, I like Gainwell better. And the reason, guys, is because before the Sanders injury, I always look if a guy gets injured, well, who's coming in? Is it someone who just is the next man up and we don't know? Kenneth Gainwell's been used in that offense and has gotten you double-digit fantasy points on 3 different occasions before all this. So even though Boston Scott, I feel, is going to get the odd pass, this should be Kenneth Gainwell's backfield. We do also have to remember, though, that ceiling is capped because Jalen Hurts himself is going to be possibly the first option on the run. But Gainwell can catch, too. So PPR, half PPR, I like Gainwell better.
You mentioned Jalen Hurts there, and there has been, I think, a stark difference between what he's been able to accomplish in fantasy and what he's been able to accomplish in real life.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said here for savvy fantasy owners who, after the Joe Flacco deal being traded away from the Eagles to the Jets, there's some whispers about Jalen Hurts perhaps, if he struggles during a game, maybe an in-game benching and giving way to Gardner Minshew in 2 QB and Superflex leagues. Now, this is a little bit pie in the sky, but there is that rumor out there. Donovan, is that something that someone who's a bit savvy can look at Gardner Minshew and say, hey, there is a chance Jalen Hurts isn't playing well in real life. Do I use a spot on Gardner Minshew to see if he pulls through?
I would wait. I mean, listen, unless you're playing in a 20-team league where
Mm.
there's a lot of, legit starting quarterbacks gone, and again, a 20-team league, we're talking about 2-team leagues, so basically all your starting quarterbacks are gone. But there's still in most leagues some serviceable guys on the bench. Kirk Cousins is on the bench in a lot of leagues. Tyrod Taylor might be coming back soon. He's someone you could pick up. Daniel Jones is on the bench in a lot of leagues. Mac Jones, the Jones brothers, on the bench in a lot of leagues. In non-dynasty leagues, Trevor Lawrence is on the bench in a lot of leagues. So I still think there's some, bottom tier starters with some week-to-week upside that you could have and stash before you're going to someone like Gardner Minshew in the hopes that he plays and in the hopes that he plays well. If he's playing, it's because that Eagles offense is even worse than it is now, and I don't know if he's good enough to have enough Minshew magic to change them.
Yeah, it's just so brutal with this Eagles offense. I know Jalen Hurts has been playing really well fantasy wise, but it seemed like the first time they were actually making a concerted effort to give the ball to Miles Sanders and establish the run, he then goes and gets hurt. And it just
Well,
seems
that
like the
that's
Eagles
that's
can't get on track.
That's why I'm afraid of Gainwell. To our previous conversation, we were pulling out our hair because Miles
Mhm.
Sanders wasn't being featured enough in that offense. So now I've got Miles Sanders light, and I'm supposed to feel excited about it. That I don't trust that position in that, or really that offense total.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we'll have to watch, but it's been a mess in Philly.
Very reasonable. Okay, Brandon on YouTube is asking Jalen Waddle or Marvin Jones. Obviously, the Dolphins receiving core continues to be banged up. Will Fuller got a finger injury. He's still out. Devontae Parker hammy. He's still out as well. So it seems like most of the passing is funneled through Waddle or Gesicki. Do we like Waddle or Marvin Jones? I'll begin with you, Andy.
I do like both. The Buffalo defense, best defense in all of fantasy football. That's where it is. Now, what we also have to remember, just like with our buddy Jalen Hurts, who real life fantasy wise great, real life maybe not so much.
Mhm.
Garbage counts. Tua's points since coming off of IR, mid to high 20s. Now, that's going to be. I figure the Bills are going to get up and he's going to have to throw the football more. So while I like Marvin Jones, and while he has certainly been a go-to weapon pretty consistently for the Jaguars, I feel Jalen Waddle, to his comfort blanket, it's going to be him. It's going to be Gesicki. I think you go with Waddle here. And you might not see the payoff until the fourth quarter, but it's going to be there.
Donovan.
Yeah, this one's really tough for me, and I do like them both as well. I mean, I do like the matchup against Seattle's defense more so than Miami's matchup against the Bills defense, although Tua has been playing lights out of late. Oddly enough, as bad as the Jaguars are, there's actually more options on that offense. I think, Laviska Shenault is really, grown into a real nice receiver and a complement of Jones. I would lean Jones still because of the defense. This week, I will say this. Devontae Parker's name has been on the block in terms of potential trade.
Mhm.
And Waddle, I think, is a play that as the year goes on, you should be starting more and more because he's going to become more and more the focal point of that offense. But for this week, I would lean Jones. But I feel like if you're in a 3 wide receiver league, you should be starting both of those guys this week.
Yeah, I agree. Kev. I say Kev because he was a groomsman at my wedding on Thursday. Kevin Jarrett on YouTube. He's supporting me
Yeah,
here too. Chuba
let's
Hubbard,
go.
Daryl Williams or Javante Williams in my flex. So Chuba Hubbard, Daryl Williams, or Javante Williams for the flex. Andy.
Ooh, it's between Hubbard and Darrell Williams for me. I'll go with the KC back here. I think, guys, this is a bounce back, get right feast, a Halloween feast for this team, even though it's on Monday. Uh, you got embarrassed last week if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. You were embarrassed. Patrick Mahomes' worst career game. You put up 3 points. You got smacked down. You got humbled. So how do you come back? If they lose to the Giants, then there's really something wrong. I don't think there's much wrong with the Chiefs. They just got a little full of themselves, a little hyped up. You got chopped down. Now how do you climb back up? It's against the New York Giants. That's how. So I think Hill feasts, Kelsey,
Mhm.
Williams, Mahomes, all of them. I think you just go heavy Chiefs in this one.
Donovan.
I agree. I think it's Williams. I don't think it's especially close. Not so much even the matchup. It's how the league's playing the Chiefs. You're seeing a lot of cover too high, a lot of umbrella shell, a lot of defenses where it's like we are going to force you to dump and dink the ball down the field. Well, that would mean, is that a McKinnon game, or are we going to see a lot of passing? No, I think the Chiefs are going to have to run their way out of these soft box looks that they're seeing. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Andy Reid really comes out and tries to demonstrate that they're going to run the ball on early downs throughout the football game. So I think Darrell Williams, it's a 20-touch game for him this week. I think that's the recipe for success. Really, not even about the Giants, just sending a message to the league that if you're going to continue to play us so conservatively, we're going to take the numbers advantage, and that's in the run game. So, yeah, I think you bet on Williams and hope that he's going to get the volume that you need to make it a good play. But more importantly, uh, Kevin Jarrett is here at Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. You're here. Did you guys not party hard enough
Oh,
during your wedding?
no,
Because
we definitely did.
you guys should
What a
still be
champ.
recuperating. You guys are obviously much younger than I, because I would be on the IR for a while. There
Yeah,
Time
it
out.
would be it would be a
look,
D beside my name, not a Q or not a
Be a
P.
D.
It would
it
be
was a
doubtful.
Thursday. It was a Thursday wedding. Okay, so we had Friday, Saturday to recover, and we're good. Look, what are we doing here? What are we really doing? We're talking fantasy football. I'm going to be sitting on the couch watching football all day long anyway. So I enjoy talking to
Exactly.
you too. So I figured, why not? Let's do the work and have a couple conversations about fantasy. It's all good. It's fun to be here. Okay, moving along with the questions. SP fans on YouTube is asking, "Good morning, guys. Need y'all advice. Start one of Antonio Gibson, Darrell Williams, or Jalen Waddle. Darrell Williams and Jalen Waddle being heavily involved here in the early going of week 8 on Fantasy Playbook Live. Andy, I'll begin with you. It's Gibson, Williams, or Waddle. I know Gibson still fighting through that shin injury that seems to have been causing him some issues so far this season.
Yeah, that's the thing, and he's not even listed with a Q beside his name. It just seems like it's just something he's going to live with. And think about
Mm-hmm.
this, guys. Think about the pain of, and I know some injuries just don't sound tough, right? Like turf toe or a shin. It's like, oh, get over it. No, no, no. We're talking about like a hairline fracture on your shin from a guy who needs to plant and push. And oh yeah, by the way, the only legal place to tackle a guy is like below the knee. So they're coming for your shins. I think you got to put a pin in Antonio Gibson until he shows that he can play through that to any sort of degree. So now it becomes Darrell Williams and Jalen Waddle. I'm going to say, I'm going to say Williams. I'm going to say Williams by like by a pinch. I wouldn't mind actually getting both in there. I'll say Williams because of the points Donovan was bringing up before as well. We're just trying to establish that situation. But I
Mm-hmm.
think between those two, either way, I think you're going to be okay. But I'll say Williams.
Donovan, Gibson, Darrell Williams, or Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, it's a great point on Gibson. And even I think of, trying to root yourself in pass protection and have great leverage and really dig in with those cleats and you have a hairline fracture in your shin. How many games have we seen him leave for extended periods because of that injury? So even if he's up, doesn't mean he's going to be playing the full complement of snaps. That leaves us to Williams and Waddle. And I fully say this knowing that on the first series of the game, Waddle can take a 9 ball to the house or take a slant to the house. He can take a hitch to the house. And no matter what happens after that, he would be a good play. I understand that. And I am bracing myself for seeing a push alert that very thing happened. However, I do think if we're talking about running backs and receivers, we're talking about your flex. So to me, that means you have better players in obviously your starting wide receiver and running back spots. So you're expecting some high volume of points from those other guys. So for me, in my flex, I'm just hoping for someone to hit singles. Just don't be a mess. And I do think Williams is going to get carries, is going to get some volume, is going to give you some points. And so I would go Williams.
I want to dig a little deeper into the Kansas City Chiefs, just because I hear you guys talking, and I agree with you on. I feel like you're both still pretty bullish on the Chiefs, irrespective of what's happened so far this season. But what do you think is the root cause of the issues with Kansas City? Other than I guess the defense is so obvious that I can't even give you credit if you were to say the defense, because it's just screaming there right in the face. But we've had Tyreek Hill issues fantasy wise. We've haven't really seen a blow up game from Travis Kelce in a while. What do you think it is about the Chiefs' offense lately that has been the source of the struggles, Andy?
I think it's a case where when those struggles started on offense, Patrick Mahomes was trying to do too much. He's felt untouchable, unbeatable, Superman, right? Everything, all those he's dropping, he's doing 3/4, he's doing sideways, he's doing shuffle passes and all this cute stuff. He's just got to focus on throwing the football and not doing too much. He's trying to be Superman and do it all himself. And I think it's a case where defensive coordinators are really smart in the NFL. They've now countered again how successful the Chiefs have been, throwing some different things in, as well as there is something to be said where everybody's gunning for you. If you're the Chiefs, you get everybody's best shot. And if you're feeling a little too high and mighty about yourself and you get everybody's best shot, that's a recipe that can hurt you. So this is going to be a get right week. I truly feel this team, it's too talented. It's too talented to stay down if they're healthy. So I think they come back and they just stomp the Giants. I just think it's a combo of everybody's best shot and maybe being a little bit too full of themselves, along with your defensive point.
Donovan, does it have anything to do with the Jackson Mahomes TikToks is my question for you. Because Patrick doesn't look too happy. Doesn't look too happy with those.
That guy is the worst.
Yeah, I felt for him deep in my soul.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because life is all about expectations, right? And so we have these expectations, this team and this offense. And I would say, listen, if you're in a league and in the public perception of the team is struggling, and on NFL Live, they're constantly talking about what's wrong with the Chiefs, just look at the numbers. Travis Kelce is still by far the best tight end in fantasy, right? So that's not close. Waller's had some injury issues. Pitts finally just got into the end zone. And Kittle has found himself on the IR again. So Kelce is the tight end to have in fantasy. Patrick Mahomes, despite turning the ball over more than he has the entire year last year, still a top 5 QB and still has been the top QB in multiple weeks. It's coming off his worst, literally game ever. And I was like, okay, let me get me a little Tyreek Hill stock. People are down on him. Let me sprinkle some offers, some trades, and get a distressed asset. When I was trying to build trades and looked at the amount of points he had relative to some of the top receivers across the league, I'm like, he's still one of the top receivers in fantasy. So let's temper how bad they have been in fantasy, which is entirely different to how bad they've been on the field. They've not been a good offense on the field. They've had penalties. They've had bad turnovers, sloppy football, but they're still giving you points in fantasy. Having said all that, in terms of what is wrong with them on the field that has not allowed them to reach their potential in fantasy, for me, it's two things. I already talked about the fact that teams are doing what the Chargers did to them early. They're putting a roof on the offense and saying we're sitting well past the sticks and forcing you to be patient. But more importantly, two things have happened. Is one, they haven't changed. The offense and the things that they're doing and the ways that they're trying to beat people are virtually the same as when Mahomes was a rookie. And the entire league is not just going to continue to get beat over the head by you. They have adjusted. And so we've never seen that counterpunch by the Chiefs just yet. And it has worked until it didn't in the Super Bowl now to start this year. And the other piece is they've never really added a complement outside of the three players that we're talking about.
Yep.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire has not been the first round pick they thought he'd be. McCole Hardman has not stepped up. Gordon hasn't had enough snaps as a dominant receiver. So there's no other place to go. Think about some of the great offenses we're talking about. The Bengals have multiple options the way they can beat you. The Cowboys, what type of game do you want to play? You want to make a run game? You want to make a physical game? You want to go over the top? They have multiple ways to beat you. The Chiefs can only really beat you in a track meet. And so I think those to me are the two biggest things as to why they've struggled. And then Andy alluded to it. They're trying to score 10s on every play. Like they're not just playing against the defense they're playing against. They're playing against their own defense. And you see them pressing. You see guys wide open and Mahomes not taking the underneath stuff, trying to go deep because he feels like he has to score on every drive.
No doubt. Irrespective of all the Chiefs issues, they are still -10 favorites on Monday night against the New York Giants. So I think the
It's a big
public
number.
certainly
It's a
still
get right game.
believes.
What are you
Yeah,
going
the
to do? Not play
public's
Travis Kelsey? You're going to not play
exactly.
Travis Kelsey, people? Come on.
Exactly.
You're
You
playing
have
Travis
you have
Kelsey.
no choice. So
Yeah.
I do want to get to a question here. Patrick Janix on Facebook says he needs a running back, McKissick, Gainwell, or Williams. We helped him out last week. Let's do it again. So Patrick, we're not going to answer this question just yet because I want you to specify who the Williams is. A couple Williams when it comes to running back. So just get back on the chat. Let us know which Williams it is, and then we will happily answer that question for you. Mike on YouTube. Good morning, guys. Half PPR flex. Emmanuel Sanders, Devontae Booker, or Melvin Gordon. Devontae Booker, obviously playing that Chiefs defense on Monday night. We just talked about the defense a little bit. So, Andy, who you rolling with, Sanders, Booker, or Melvin Gordon?
I want Emmanuel Sanders all day. All day. The guy's been fantastic. Absolutely phenomenal. And in PPR in certain weeks, guys, he's better than Stephon Diggs fantasy-wise.
Mm.
That's real life right now, right? You want Emmanuel Sanders. And think about it this way also. Dawson Knox is out for Buffalo. Well, now that the tight end's been incorporated into that Bills offense finally for the first time in the Josh Allen era as an actual weapon, well, now we're freeing up 4, 5, 6 targets a game. Where are those going to go? I personally think some are going to go to Cole Beasley. I put him in my Sportsnet.ca waiver wire article every Tuesday. Cheap plug there. But I think Beasley's a nice play too for an under the radar guy. But those targets are going to be going to Sanders and Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sanders for sure against the Dolphins. Yeah, let's go.
Deej, Sanders, Devontae Booker, or Melvin Gordon?
I got Booker. The best player in fantasy this year has been whatever running back is facing the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
And we have prescribed ways that the Chiefs can fix that offense. You didn't hear us talk about how they can fix that defense. They're not getting any faster. They're not getting any more stout against the run. So unless they make some deadline moves, and maybe there's a pass rusher within the division that might no longer want to be a Denver Bronco that might look good in Kansas City. Unless they do some things to change, this defense is going to continue to be bad. And they have a coordinator who prefers to rush the passer than stop the run in Spags. So I'm taking Booker. This is probably going to be his last start before they get Saquon back. Saquon was questionable, and you saw Booker's projected number go from single digits to high double digits when it was clear he was going to be the starter, and I think that's for a reason. So I would take Booker.
I just got an alert. Jamal Williams, Lions running back, is out today. That means DeAndre Swift is going to continue to get fed in the Lions backfield. He has been getting fed more and more, it seems, every week. And Calvin Ridley, breaking news, Calvin Ridley today is out due to a personal matter. That is just breaking right now from Ian Rappaport. So Calvin Ridley, who I think continues to be a buy low candidate, hasn't really been on the same page as much as Matt Ryan, but Matt Ryan's been slinging it the last couple of weeks. Despite that, Calvin Ridley is out today due to a personal matter. And what does that mean for Kyle Pitts? Probably means that he's going to continue to get fed because he has been eating nonstop the last couple of weeks. Jackson on YouTube. How's it going? I'm stuck deciding between Shepard, Tony, and CeeDee Lamb for 2 wide receiver spots. Is CeeDee Lamb not worth starting if Dak is down? I'm going to go to the Cowboys fan for his opinion on this one first. DJ.
Yeah, that's tough. And I mean, I talked about how bad that Chiefs defense is. So, I would consider Tony, although he's pretty boom or bust. If you had a better, more consistent wide receiver option, I would say stay away from CeeDee. I do think, though, that out of all of the Cowboys receivers, the one that might still be playable is CeeDee if Dak's not up, because he's a guy who they target with bubble screens. He's a guy who they like to give pop passes and reverses to because of that run after catchability that he has. So I would go against what I said earlier and say stay away from Cowboy skills. Given the options that you mentioned, I would still take CeeDee. Tony would be the second person I would look to.
Yeah, it just seems like CD is so talented, and they make an effort to get the ball in his hands. He's such a playmaker. Andy, are you on board with that, CD and Tony, or are you going another direction?
Well, I'll say first to the Ridley being out comment. Everyone's
Mm,
going to be focusing on Pitt's guys. Cordarrelle Patterson, that's your play. That's your guy right there. Book it. I'm telling you, Cordarrelle
book it.
Patterson. Book it, baby. But the other side, Shepard hamstring issue. You look up and down that Giants lineup, guys. Q, 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 Q. Everybody except for Booker. So Shepard and Tony, do I want to trust either of them, especially soft tissue for Shepard? I don't. So I'm with Donovan there. I think CeeDee Lamb, no matter what, because you can maneuver him in spots where you can get the ball out of Cooper Rush's hands quickly in the slot. CeeDee's so versatile to still get the ball in your playmaker's hands. So I'll say CeeDee Lamb as well.
Uh, okay, we're on board together on that one. Another breaking news alert: Devontae Parker back today for the Miami Dolphins. Bit of a surprise, still dealing with that hamstring. We'll see how
And
healthy
shoulder.
he is. And shoulder. He's got a whole whack of injuries, Devontae Parker, but it does appear he's going to be back in the lineup. Andy, does that change anything for you when it comes to Jalen Waddle or Mike Gesicki? They've been the ones who have been eating on that offense as of late, but does Parker being back on the outside affect them in any way?
I don't think so. That doesn't concern me because this decision comes so late, because it's multiple shoulder and hamstring. And like, do we feel confident he's going to get a full target share, a full workload? I don't. And so I still think that even if he is in there, Jalen Waddle is going to be the first look for Tua. Now,
Yeah.
could that cut into Gesicki's? Maybe, but I still, that doesn't worry me too much.
Okay, let's go back to Patrick, who is paying attention, and he responded. It's Daryl Williams, who is the Williams running back. So he says he needs a running back: McKissick, Gainwell, or Daryl Williams. And again, we helped him out last week, so no pressure. We got to do it again. DJ, we'll start with you.
Yeah, for all the reasons we talked about earlier, it's Williams for me.
Andy, same deal?
Yeah, got to go with Williams. Close second to Gainwell. I do still like Gainwell, but in that scenario versus the Giants, yeah, got to go with Williams.
Okay, we got a quarterback question here from Brandon on YouTube asking Joe Burrow or Kirk Cousins. And the interesting thing here for me when it comes to Kirk Cousins is if Cooper Rush plays, how does that sort of affect the game script of that game? Is it going to be the high scoring affair that we would have expected if Dak Prescott was under center for the Cowboys? So, DJ, are you going Joe Burrow or Kirk Cousins? Let's help Brandon out.
Joe Burrow is an automatic start at this point. He's playing at a lights out level. So for me, it's Burrow. It's not close.
Are you worried at all today, specifically because they're playing the Jets? Are you worried at all that they maybe try to establish Mixon
Score too many
early
points?
and they score too many points early and then they just slow it down a little bit? Like we have a Jamar Chase 2 touchdowns on 2 touches sort of day, and then they dial it back a little bit and maybe even gets to a garbage time where Burrow doesn't even play in the fourth quarter because they're up so big. Does that concern you at all, or you just roll with him regardless?
Have you seen any of Joe Burrow's mic'd up clips? Like
He's
he's
the
all
best.
gas, no break.
I love the
No,
Bengals.
he
Yeah.
he might
Sorry,
he
Andy.
might sit the fourth quarter,
He's good.
but he's looking to not just win. He's looking to take your heart out, and
Yeah.
that's not something we've been accustomed to saying about the Cincinnati Bengals. So no, it's Burrow,
Roll
no
with
question.
Burrow. Yeah, Andy, are you on board with that too? Joe Burrow or Kirk Cousins? And I mean, it's. I know you're a Cleveland fan, but you got to appreciate what the Bengals are doing. All those people who said, "Oh, the Bengals should have taken an offensive lineman in the draft." Well, they took Jamar Chase, and he is the slam dunk offensive rookie of the year as of right now. And he might even be in the. You can make a case he's a top 3 receiver in the league right now already. So, Andy, are you going Joe Burrow or Kirk Cousins here in this spot?
I was thinking along the same lines of maybe they get up too much and they have to run the ball. Then I thought, well, they get up by too much, it's going to be Joe Burrow slinging it. So it doesn't
Yeah,
matter when he might get all his points in the first half. Doesn't matter. He can still get you 25 fantasy points as
right.
your QB. It's Joe Burrow.
Don't overthink it. Go
Don't
Joe Burrow.
overthink it. Go with Joe.
Trent on Facebook. Morning, guys. Half PPR flex, Chuba Hubbard or Eli Mitchell? And he has a second question I'll get to after you guys answer that one. Chuba Hubbard or Eli Mitchell today, DJ?
Still Eli Mitchell.
Eli Mitchell for you, Andy?
Yeah, I like Chuba, how he's been fine. Like he's been fine. But,
Yeah.
you know, like he's
Fine isn't good enough. Fine isn't
fine.
what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think Eli, because think about that offense. It's with no Kittle, Ayuk is a non-factor, and Jimmy G likes to dink and dunk it as well. It's Debo Samuel and it's Eli Mitchell, and Trey Sermon is an afterthought still in the doghouse. So I think Eli, even against the Bears, which don't be confused with the Bears defense, which can still be good, but you can wear them down, as we've seen multiple times. You might not get your points to the second half, but the points are coming for you. So I think Eli.
Yeah, I think people with Chuba, when he stepped in for Christian McCaffrey originally, I think some people were expecting maybe he'd take on a workhorse role similar to Christian McCaffrey. And really, it happened at the beginning, but it hasn't happened since. Royce Freeman has been eating into Hubbard's workload a little bit. The running routes have been 21-18 in favor of Hubbard last week. So Royce Freeman is certainly eating into Chuba Hubbard's workload a little bit, and that's impacting what you can expect from Chuba Hubbard. The other question from Trent, Ricky Seals-Jones or other ideas floating around in the waiver wire, Evan Ingram, Conklin, or some other tight end streamer, or is this just a slam dunk, Ricky Seals-Jones? Donovan.
Yeah, and condolences to the Bob Tunyon fantasy owners as he is down for the year. That's a tough one. So you're looking for a tight end. I don't mind Seals-Jones. I really like Mo Alley Cox if he's still available in your league. He's got a favorable matchup against the Titans this week. I do think if you're a Browns fan, like our man Andy, Njoku would be a nice option against a Pitt defense who's not as good in the secondary as they are up front. Hurst might be a good option if they're looking for some more big targets over the middle with Ridley out. He might be someone that could get you some double-digit points this week for Atlanta. But tight ends virtually are pretty touchdown dependent at this point. If you're streaming someone, just hoping to give you some decent points for 1 week.
It seems like Ricky Seals-Jones has carved out a prominent role in this Washington offense. As long as Logan Thomas remains out, Ricky Seals-Jones has played 99.7% of Washington's offensive snaps over the past 3 weeks, averaging 5 catches for 50 yards over those 3 weeks. So Andy, he seems like the one to roll with in that spot over the other options that were provided there.
It got to be, especially in a PPR or half PPR, guys, because, yeah, he is. And he's gotten the last 2 weeks over 15, and I believe just around 18 fantasy points the last 2 weeks. From a tight end, you're getting off the waiver wire. You can't get better than that, and you won't. Yeah. The other guys, like CJ Uzomah for the Bengals, well, he has to get 2 touchdowns on 3 catches. He has to get 2 touchdowns. Now, if you're telling me you got to rely on a guy like, boy, I hope this guy gets 2 touchdowns, that doesn't happen too often.
Good luck. Yeah.
Uzomah's done it twice, so credit to him. But a guy like him or Jared Cook, super touchdown dependent. Ricky Seals-Jones seems a little bit beyond that, where he is still part of the offense in a bigger way rather than just falling into the end zone.
Sebi on YouTube is asking, pick 3, full PPR here. Okay, we got Chuba Hubbard, Nick Chubb. That's an automatic. I'm telling you right now. I'm going to stop and say yes. Darrell Williams, Damian Harris, and Jonathan Taylor. Again, Chubb and Taylor for sure.
Yep.
Lock them down. All in agreement. Nod your head. Yes, 100%. Yep. Okay, so the other 3, we got to pick one here: Chuba Hubbard, Darrell Williams, or Damian Harris. For me, this is between Darrell Williams and Damian Harris, and I will let you guys talk it out. DJ.
Yeah, basically, who asked that question on YouTube?
Sebi.
Sebi's like, can you just start my entire lineup for me?
Yeah, basically.
Can you just slot my line? Here's my password.
Here's my roster.
Here's my password. Yeah. Send us a gift card. We'll see what we do for you.
Harris. So the question
is Harris or Darrell Williams?
Or Williams.
Yeah.
That is tough. I've talked up Williams quite a bit. That is tough. I think Williams. I do think the Patriots have a much better run game, but I don't know for certain who's going to be the beneficiary of those carries. Is it going to be a lot of Bolden? You could get a surprise there, and so I would go again. You've got those 2 other running backs in your RB spots. You're just looking at a running back in your flex clearly. So I'd put Williams in the flex because I do think that there's going to be a more guarantee of return on investment. But that's tough.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's just it's even more tough when it's a Patriots running back involved because you just
Yeah.
never know with Bill Belichick. Me and Donovan sitting here last week got an alert that Ramondre Stevenson was a healthy scratch, and everyone was expecting him to carve out
Right.
that James White role. And that suddenly just didn't play. And then J.J. Taylor has 2 touchdowns in garbage time. It's like, what is going on with this Patriots offense? But do you agree there, Andy? Is it Darrell Williams over Damian Harris, or are you going the other way?
Guys, it's Halloween, and I'm going to Sam Darnold because I see ghosts. I see ghosts. I'm spooked. I'm spooked by this New England Patriots situation for just the reasons you guys laid out, and in previous years. Could Damian Harris against that terrible run D of the Chargers have a great day? Yes, but all those other ifs, and we went over Darrell Williams before. I think the path to success and the safer play is Williams.
Okay, Josh on YouTube, Khalif Raymond or Marquez Callaway. It's a half PPR league. Khalif
Blech.
Raymond or Marquez Callaway. You know what Andy thinks about those two options. Maybe there's someone better floating around on the waiver wire, Josh. But Andy, if you had to choose, maybe it's a big league. Khalif Raymond or Marquez Callaway.
I don't trust. The only player I trust on the New Orleans Saints is Alvin Kamara. That's it. Period. End of story for me. That's all. So out of the two, I'll say Raymond because he has flash and there is opportunity. But we have to remember the offense goes through Swift and Hawkinson first, and then whatever
Right.
scraps are left over. So I would say another waiver wire guy you might want to look at. I mentioned earlier is Cole Beasley for today for a stream this week only. I think that might be a better play. But out of those two in that scenario, to me, it's no doubt Khalif Raymond.
Donovan.
Yeah, I don't feel great about either. I mean, so here's how I look at it. And, for those listening, more context is Adams is out and he's got Renfro on a bye. And so he's just grasping at straws at the back of his roster. Half PPR. So the player who I think is going to get a little bit more volume is Raymond. So, based off of that methodology, he is the safer play. However, in a shootout against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I actually think the player more likely to score a touchdown might be Callaway. Is he's got that big play ability.
Mhm.
So, Josh, I'm not really answering your question. I'm just giving you back some information. It depends on your value system. If you want a little bit more certainty in that flex, Raymond is the person. But if you want, some more boom potential and willing to risk some bust potential, then it's Callaway. And we talked about this last week, Jesse. Oftentimes for me, this decision is based off of what my projection is. What does my opponent have? What are they projected to do?
Mhm.
Do I need to basically overscore all of my individual projections to have a chance to win, or am I pretty safe in terms of what's going to happen? So depends on your situation, but you're going to have to be praying and refreshing all day, no matter what.
I think it's a really good point about Marquez Callaway because the Bucks' run D has been exceptional this year, aside from maybe Khalil Herbert last week. But their passing defense has been a little bit concerning, and that does open the door maybe for Marquez Callaway today. But I wanted to get your opinion on this. The line in this game is the Bucks by 4. And I know the game's in New Orleans, but based on what we've seen from Jameis Winston the last couple of weeks, I was very surprised by that line being only 4 because and the Bucks might even have Rob Gronkowski back today in the lineup. So that offense is checking all the boxes. Why is this line only 4, Andy, today?
Be honest, I don't know. I would have put that line at a touchdown
Me too.
easily. Like
Yeah.
if you were just to ask me top of my head, what do you think? I'd say a touchdown. I'd say a touchdown. Like there's no, I don't really see the reason why you would go against them. And like the Buccaneers offense is so good, is in such a rhythm, is so fine tuned right now. I'm not going to doubt them. And I don't think the Saints, as they're playing, as they're built right now, and as they've really restrained Jameis Winston, have the ability to compete in a shootout. And that's what we could be up for, especially if Brady gets a couple quick strikes. Like if they go up 14-0 right away,
Yeah.
it's over. So I think the line should be 7 myself. I would take that.
Yeah, Deej, it was very strange for me to see that because okay, you have Marshawn Lattimore maybe shadowing Mike Evans, but then you have to contend with Chris Godwin and Rob Gronkowski, and Leonard Fournette has been great. He's not just playoff Lenny anymore; he's regular season Lenny as well. So I was surprised when I saw the -4 line, even though I know there's a premium placed on the Saints when they play at home because the crowd can be really loud. But it's Tom Brady. He's been there before. He's
It's not
played in
budging
the
him.
Superdome before. It shouldn't be a -4 line, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's played in the Superdome before. He played there last year. Didn't play all that well.
Mhm.
Lattimore has owned Evans in their careers, and remember, the Saints beat the Bucks in the regular season. Really, quite frankly, should have beat them in the playoffs. Outplayed them for the balance of the game in the playoffs, and it came down to the end. And Jameis Winston actually in his career has been a beast against the spread when an underdog. So I actually, understand why, some of the sharps feel like the Bucks have an opportunity, and that's the line is maybe closer than we thought at 4.
All right. We're going to have to see. I'm going to have to think a little bit after noon and decide whether I want to throw some money down on that -4 line, but Donovan might have just talked me out of it. So we'll move on. Okay. We got Andis on YouTube, standard, flex spot, Michael Carter, who does play for the New York Jets,
Mhm.
T. Higgins, or Marvin Jones. So let's help Andis out. Michael Carter, Higgins, or Marvin Jones, Andy.
And it's standard.
It's a standard, and we're looking for a flex spot here.
See, that's disappointing because it's much more appealing, those ones, if it is a PPR. But that's
Mhm.
the league you're in, so we make do. Michael Carter has been actually pretty good for the Jets,
Yeah.
but I still am not comfortable with a standard situation at all. I'll go Marvin Jones. Here. Come off the bye. More comfortable again in a PPR style, but he has gotten target share this year. Could Laviska Shenault Jr. pop up some more? Yes, but Marvin Jones has been pretty steady as a guy that Trevor Lawrence goes to, so I'll take that into account and I'll say Jones.
Donovan, same deal?
Oh yeah, I mean Jones is pretty boom or bust, but he's coming off, he's coming off a bye, number one. But prior to that, he gave you 23 fantasy points in most standard leagues. You're playing in the standard league.
Mhm.
I like Jones among that trio.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in agreement with both of you. Okay, we have a defense question, which is not all that common, but let's help Gabriel out. Gabriel on Facebook is asking Bills defense against Tua and the Dolphins, or the Bengals defense against Mike White and the New York Jets. Donovan.
It's the Bengals defense. Listen, the Bengals defense has been, arguably the best actual defense, not the best fantasy defense. You're going against a worse offense. You're going against a much worse quarterback. As we said earlier, Tua has been pretty good from a
Mhm.
QBR perspective since he's been back. The Bengals defense, clearly.
Andy, you agree? Bengals defense, even though the Bills defense is really good, I don't think necessarily Gabriel should drop the Bills defense because they are a pretty high scoring defense and they're a good defense. It just might be the Bengals are a better option this week.
Right. Yeah, I would not drop the Bills defense. Actually, the two leagues I'm in, I have the Buffalo defense myself. So for me, when I look at the Bengals, I was just pulling up the fantasy points this year. They've only hit double digit one time. They've only actually surpassed they've only gotten 7 points or less the rest of the way. So even though the Jets are bad, they're not necessarily creating situations that defense. They may shut you down, but they're
Mhm.
not creating situations, a lot of turnovers, a lot of the sacks are okay. So they'll win the ball game. Don't get me wrong, and they'll probably win it in dominant fashion. But is it going to get you enough fantasy points? I feel the Bills' defense has really popped a lot more. So for a fantasy point wise, in that scenario, maybe not real life this week, but I got to go with Buffalo.
Wow, love it. Okay, that's why we get defense questions so we can help Gabriel out on a day like today. Oscar is asking uh, Daryl Henderson, or DeAndre Swift. So we do have the news now that Jamal Williams is not playing. Does that tilt the scales one way or another? We know that Daryl Henderson has been getting the majority of the snaps, and it's becoming more and more of a majority over Sony Michel every single week. So is it Daryl Henderson or DeAndre Swift, Donovan?
Oof, another good one. I like both players. I really like DeAndre Swift. He's been the best player on that offense. He's you can make an argument he's their best running back and their best
Yeah.
receiver. Both have good matchups. The Texans obviously are not very good. Um, that's tough. I'm going to say DeAndre Swift. He's got a higher upside. Was questionable for a big portion of the week, but I'm going to say Swift. But you really should be able to get both those guys in your lineup. But I'll say Swift.
Yeah, I think today they're both RB1s. I don't even think that's debatable. Henderson has outsnapped Sony Michel 57-8 last week, and DeAndre Swift already getting the majority of the snaps with Jamal Williams in the lineup. Now he's out. He's basically their only source of offense. So I agree with Donovan. If you can get both these guys, Oscar, in the lineup, that's something that I would do. But if you had to choose one, Andy, where would you go?
Yeah, try to get both in, even if it's in a flex, whatever. I doubt, unless you're in like a 6-team league
Yeah.
and you're just flooded with options. If you're in a regular 12-team league, I would think you'd be able to find room for both of them. I think you go DeAndre Swift. He's been the 17th best overall fantasy player this year. He's been sensational.
Crazy.
Now, that injury, it is good that he's off the medical report. He would have gotten a lot of the touches anyway. Williams out, like we just talked about. I just think that matchup as well against an Eagles defense, which is okay and could lend itself to the offense is really having to keep the pace up and going. I think you go with Swift today, but not a bad option either way.
Agreed. Okay, more news. T.Y. Hilton will be active for the Colts in a massive game today against the Tennessee Titans. I'm not sure that really does all that much to impact Michael Pittman. Carson Wentz has been playing really well. We know Jonathan Taylor is going to be the straw that stirs the drink in that offense as well. But do you guys think T.Y. Hilton playing in this game today has any bearing on the Colts offense? And is he even startable in any capacity? Andy?
No, do not start T.Y. Hilton. I think that's a negative because he's still going to command maybe 3-4 targets that could have gone to Michael Pittman. So that's
Right.
a negative for me. Or the other side too, those targets, maybe they now do not go to a Mo Alley Cox, right? Maybe they don't go that way. So that is more at this point in his career, T.Y. Hilton is a fantasy hindrance rather than somebody that is going to be usable or playable. Could he always go off with a one long bot? Sure. I could reach into my pocket and find $20 right now. I just did. It's not there. It's not there. Okay. So no T.Y. Hilton. No T.Y. Hilton.
Donovan, no T.Y. Hilton for you with Andy. Reach in your pocket, by the way. Let's see if you have
you got
$20.
20?
Yeah, you got the 20.
Nothing in here. Nothing in mine.
Just a bunch of the lint. So I think you're not starting Ty. I think you hold on to him. He's someone who, if you get in a pinch because you got wide receivers on the IR, you got multiple buys, could you throw him in and hope that he gets you, 7 fantasy points? Sure. But I don't think he's someone that you're, taking people out of your starting lineup
Right.
to put him in because he's now up.
Good point. Bill on Twitter is asking, was Sam Darnold an early season mirage? Should I bench him for Teddy Roosevelt this week? Thanks. Great nickname, Teddy Roosevelt. Sam Darnold obviously benched last week in favor of PJ Walker. Now, the thing is, for Sam Darnold, PJ Walker actually looked worse. And it looks like Sam Darnold is going to get more leeway here when it comes to continuing to be the Panthers quarterback. Deshaun Watson was rumored with the Carolina Panthers. They were linked a little bit, but now it appears that those trade talks are off. Schefter reporting today that he believes Deshaun Watson is going to remain with the Houston Texans past Tuesday's trade deadline. So Bill is asking, Donovan, Sam Darnold or Teddy Bridgewater this week?
I mean, you could ask the question, was Teddy Bridgewater an early season mirage? Because Teddy Bridgewater came out of the gates throwing. I like Teddy more because I think the mirage Darnold was what he was giving you in the run game. The fact that he was, the best goal to go running back in football is a bit of a mirage. You're not going to get that from him throughout the rest of the season. I think the answer is Bridgewater, just because he's got more talent around him, and he's in a better situation. So I would pick Bridgewater.
Jerry Jeudy back in the lineup today for the Denver Broncos. Does that help Teddy Bridgewater enough to start him over Sam Darnold, Andy?
You know what? I personally, I have Jerry Jeudy on one of my teams. I'm keeping him on the bench today. I never like when you have a guy coming off week 1 injury all the way this long. How is his? How is he going to play? How much work is he going to get? Does he come out? How often do we see a long injury guy comes out all of a sudden? Oh, my hammy, something go a soft tissue thing. I want to wait and see on Judy. For when it means to Teddy Bridgewater, I'm going to go with guys. I'm going to go one more time with the ghost man, Sam Darnold. One more time on Halloween. I'm going to hope it comes together. This is another great matchup. Maybe, and we have to think of it this way. If you're Sam Darnold, you want to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, you get benched again from the Panthers, this is your last shot. You're going to be floating around for the next decade like Colt McCoy in a backup role. So this is your last shot. You stepped up to the occasion at the start of the year. Now's your chance to reboot against a bad Falcons defense. I think Sam Darnold gets back on track and is the better play this week. A lot of projection there, a lot of what ifs, but I think you can find a way, a map that he can get there.
You referenced it before. It is Halloween. Now would not be the time for Sam Darnold to see ghosts.
No.
He's got to put those ghosts in the past and move forward here. A big spot for Sam Darnold. Dexter on YouTube. Desperately need a win this week. Everything set but wide receiver 2. Should I start A.J. Brown or Emmanuel Sanders? Julio Jones out today. And you know who's going to benefit from that? Although it hasn't seemed to matter in the last couple of weeks. A.J. Brown is going to benefit. I know Sanders has been great, but for me, even though I'm kind of hosting here and not giving my opinion all that much, A.J. Brown would be the one that I would roll with. Donovan, you agree? A.J. Brown over Emmanuel Sanders?
I'm going to cede my time to Andy because I agree with all the things that you just said for the reasons you just said them. It's A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I think with the fact that Julio was out, if Julio Jones was in, I would go Emmanuel Sanders. I would. And we know, though, now we have to remember, this could just be like in any week, them just keep giving the ball to Derrick Henry, who cannot be stopped. He can't. He cannot be stopped. So that is always a possibility. But yeah, it just seems like there's too many options. If he's going to, it goes back to like last year. Last year it was Ryan Tannehill either handing it to Derrick Henry or throwing it to A.J. Brown. Mm-hmm. Well, we're in the same situation this week.
Okay, I'm going to go rapid fire in the last couple questions here. We got to wrap up. It is noon. George or Jorge, on Facebook. Jarvis Landry or KJ Osborne. It's a half PPR league. We have discussed the Baker Mayfield non-throwing shoulder issues. How does that affect Jarvis Landry, Jarvis Landry or KJ Osborne today?
This is a tough one as well. KJ Osborne's been really good.
Surprisingly really good.
Yeah. And so I'm going to say Landry because of the half PPR aspect. He's higher in the read progression on most plays than Osborne would be. But don't sleep on KJ Osborne. He's been really good.
Andy, Jarvis Landry or KJ Osborne?
KJ Osborne's season, guys, has been a fantasy sandwich. So the bread is the good part. We had a good start to the bread, nice thick piece and a nice thin piece of rye at the bottom last week. In the middle, it was rotten meat. So it is inconsistent. But I will say, everybody healthy, I would go with Landry. Even though Landry's in, he came off the knee injury. He re-injured it a little bit last week. He is going to play. This is going to be run heavy. And against a Dallas defense that we know isn't that good, it's a bit more of a roller coaster. This is certainly the higher floor is Landry, but I'm going to go because of the injury factor to him and Baker. I'll go with KJ Osborne.
Okay, and last one, Glenn on YouTube. It's half PPR. He needs 3, so I'm going to rifle through these players right now. Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, or Darrell Williams. I mean, those are all pretty good players.
So he needs what? Sutton. He needs 3?
He needs 3. Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, or Darrell Williams.
Well, Metcalf and McLaurin for sure, right? Do we agree on those two?
I agree, yeah.
So now we're looking at Sutton and Williams.
Sutton or Williams. Spot. Yeah. Judy's going to be back in the slot, it looks like, today. Cortland Sutton's going to be on the outside against the Washington football team. But we have been talking up Darrell Williams all day long. So are we going against that right now in the last question with Cortland Sutton?
To stay consistent, I'm going to say Williams. The half Williams? The half PPR, I guess, gives me a reason to hedge it, but I'm going to say Williams and hope that he gets more than 3 carries today.
Andy, we going Metcalf, McLaurin, and Darrell Williams here?
Yeah, you got to go Williams against the Giants. Like I said, this is a get-right game, statement game for the Chiefs on Monday night.
Amazing. That's going to do it for us. A lot of people were offering congratulations on the wedding in the comments. I just want to say thank you very much.
Yeah, buddy.
I really appreciate it. And of course, it's always a pleasure to come here every Sunday and talk with you two and talk with all the viewers who are interacting with us. Again, as always, if you have any questions up until kickoff or the late window or the primetime games, feel free to reach out to any one of us on Twitter. We'll help you out. You see our Twitter handles there. But Andy, Donovan, you guys are the best. It's good to be back. Good to have the band back together. And we will do it again for week 9 next week. So enjoy week 8 of football. A lot of teams back from their byes. Should be a good one. So for Donovan, for Andy, I'm Jesse Rubinoff. Thanks for watching.